This is happening right now. Thousands of U.S. Marines are being deployed to the Middle East, and Iran is watching. After Iran launched a massive missile barrage against Israel, hitting multiple cities and military installations, the United States responded within hours. American cruise missiles sank an Iranian warship in the Persian Gulf. Follow-up strikes destroyed oil storage facilities along Iran's coast, creating fireballs visible for miles. And then came the order: full combat mobilization across all US military branches. CH-53C Stallion helicopters are landing in forward positions. Marines in full combat gear are establishing bases in raw, open ground. Artillery pieces are being airlifted into firing positions, and this is just the beginning. This is Strategic Signal Report. I'm Sarah Mitchell. Over the next 10 minutes, I'm breaking down what's being deployed, where they're going, what this escalation means, and whether a ground invasion of Iran is actually happening. Real facts. Let's go. Here's what triggered this massive US deployment. Iran launched one of the largest missile attacks in the war so far. Ballistic missiles hit multiple Israeli cities. Military installations were struck. Civilian areas were hit. Casualties were reported. The United States responded immediately. U.S. cruise missile strikes hit an Iranian naval vessel in the Persian Gulf and sent it to the bottom. Follow-up strikes destroyed oil storage facilities on Iran's coast. Fuel tanks erupted, creating fireballs visible for miles. The strikes caused immediate damage to Iran's ability to export oil and move military supplies. And then the Pentagon issued the order that changed everything: full combat mobilization. Every available unit received orders to move to combat readiness immediately. This isn't a drill. This isn't posturing. This is the actual deployment of combat forces to forward positions near Iran. At a U.S. airfield, the mobilization is already visible. Two CH-53C Stallion heavy-lift helicopters sit on the flight line with their rotors turning. Ground crew stands clear of the rotor wash. In the ready room, Marine helicopter pilots gear up. They pull on their flight suits, strap into their survival vests, check their sidearms, and put on their helmets. This is the preparation before a combat deployment, not a training exercise. Near the helicopters, Marines are assembled into groups, one for each aircraft. They carry full combat loads: body armor, helmets, rifles, magazines, grenades, radios, water, and rations. On command, the first group boards the lead CH-53 through the side personnel door. The second group follows into the second helicopter. The helicopters lift off their destination, a forward position in the Middle East. At the same airfield, a CH-47 Chinook is being loaded with a different mission. Marines file in through the rear ramp, taking their seats in the cargo hold. But the real cargo is underneath the helicopter. Ground crew attaches an artillery piece to the external cargo sling. It's a towed howitzer that the Chinook will carry suspended. Beneath the fuselage, the rigging is checked, the load is secured, and the helicopter lifts off with the gun hanging below. The Chinook flies low over the terrain toward a military camp. On approach, it descends, and the crew chief guides the pilots down until the howitzer touches the ground. The sling is released and the gun sits on the dirt. The helicopter moves to a nearby landing spot and sets down. Marines walk off the ramp and immediately move to the artillery piece. They unpack the ammunition that came with them and begin setting up the firing position. Trails are spread, spades are dug in, sights are mounted, and rounds are stacked and ready. This is a functioning artillery position in hostile territory, and it was set up in minutes. As evening approaches, 2 more helicopters arrive at a separate forward position carrying additional Marines. The aircraft land in an open area. It's flat ground with no structures, no cover, and no pre-existing base. The Marines exit and spread out. It's getting dark fast. There are no tents, no shelters, and no facilities at this location. This is a raw position in the field. The Marines immediately establish a defensive perimeter. They set up crew-served weapons at key points covering the most likely approach routes and assign watch rotations. Some dig shallow fighting positions. Others lay out their gear on the ground: sleeping bags, ponchos, and ammunition within arm's reach. They eat cold rations and drink water from canteens. The temperature drops. They settle in for a night on the open ground with nothing overhead but sky. This is what forward deployment looks like. No comfort, no safety, just Marines on the ground ready to fight. Through the night, helicopters make multiple supply runs to the position. They come in blacked out, using night vision to navigate. There are no lights. It's total darkness. Each flight brings in more equipment. Crates of ammunition are offloaded. Additional anti-tank weapons arrive, along with mortar tubes and rounds, cases of radio, batteries, and medical supplies. On one of the later flights, lightweight tactical buggies are rolled off the rear ramp of a Chinook. The vehicles are driven off the helicopter and moved to concealed positions under camouflage netting. Communication specialists set up satellite antennas and establish contact with the command post. By the time the sun starts to come up, the position has completely transformed. What was an empty patch of ground 12 hours ago is now a functioning forward operating base with vehicles, weapons, supplies, communications, and defensive positions. All of it was established overnight in complete darkness. At first light, the Marines begin moving out from the camp. They split into squads and head toward their assigned sectors. The first task is reconnaissance. Teams move through the terrain slowly and deliberately. They're observing the landscape, identifying natural cover, marking ridge lines and dead ground that could conceal enemy movement, mapping out fields of fire, and identifying potential ambush positions. Everything is recorded and reported back to the command element at the camp. Sniper teams move to elevated positions overlooking the surrounding area. They unpack their rifles, set up bipods, and lay out their equipment: spotting scopes, rangefinders, wind meters, and logbooks. One man is behind the rifle, one is behind the spotting scope. They begin methodical observation of the terrain, scanning sector by sector, noting distances to landmarks, identifying potential targets, and logging any movement they see. This is how you control territory. You keep eyes on everything. The infantry squads begin running. Through combat drills, they practice bounding movement across open ground. One fire team moves while the other provides cover, then they switch. It's constant mutual support. They rehearse building and room clearing procedures. They stack up on the door, breach, enter, clear corners, and call out threats. They practice moving through low terrain, using wadis and ditches to stay hidden from observation. Every movement is done at a crouch or crawl. Speed and silence are the priority. The squad leaders watch each run through, correct mistakes, and make them do it again. The drills repeat over and over until every man moves without hesitation, without noise, and without exposing himself to the open. The fire teams practice immediate action drills: what to do when they take fire from the front, the flank, or from an ambush. They rehearse casualty evacuation procedures: how to drag a wounded man to cover while maintaining return fire. Machine gun teams set up their weapons, identify primary and alternate firing positions, and practice displacing between them under simulated pressure. This isn't training, this is rehearsal for what's coming. So what does this deployment actually mean? This is not just posturing, this is real combat preparation. Marines don't deploy to forward positions with artillery, anti-tank weapons, and tactical vehicles unless they're planning to use them. There are 3 possible scenarios. Scenario 1 is deterrence. This could be a show of force designed to make Iran think twice about further attacks. Deploy enough firepower that Iran sees the cost of escalation and hope they back down. Scenario 2 is limited operations. This could mean special forces raids into Iran to seize nuclear materials, hit key targets, and extract. There would be no full occupation, but there would be American boots on Iranian soil. Scenario 3 is a ground invasion. This would be a full-scale assault where Marines establish beachheads, armor follows, and air support pounds Iranian positions. The objective would be regime change. Which scenario is happening? We don't know yet, but when you deploy thousands of Marines with artillery and establish forward operating bases overnight, you're preparing for more than just airstrikes. Iran is watching this deployment, and they're not backing down. Iranian state media is showing the footage and calling it American aggression. They're vowing to defend Iranian soil. Iran's Revolutionary Guard issued a statement saying that any American soldier who sets foot on Iranian territory will face the consequences. Iran has 90 million people, a large and well-trained military, and hardened defenses. This isn't Iraq, this isn't Afghanistan, this is a much larger and more capable adversary. If US Marines actually invade Iran, this becomes the largest ground war the United States has fought since Vietnam. Thousands of US Marines have deployed to forward positions in the Middle East. CH-53 helicopters are landing. Artillery is in place. Tactical vehicles are concealed under camouflage. Combat drills are being rehearsed. This isn't posturing. This is preparation. Iran sank a US warship. The US responded. Iran launched missiles. The US mobilized Marines. Where does this go next? Ground invasion? Limited raids? Or does one side blink first? What do you think? Are we about to see US Marines invade Iran? Is this deterrence or preparation for war? Real talk in the comments. Subscribe to Strategic Signal Report. We're tracking every development as this escalates. For Strategic Signal Report, I'm Sarah Mitchell. The Marines have landed and the war just got real. See you in the next one.